Question is, what sort of things might be happening in your neighbourhood right now which means you could be buying a house at a discount?
Divorce.
Okay, let's put that up. Divorce!
That's a popular one right now.
Oh, it's great. Everybody moves one partner to the left. Don't you love it?
Yeah. Some people are just upgrading. Okay. Bill.
They've lost their job.
Loss of job. Absolutely. Huh?
Too much shouting before breakfast. Selling another property. They want to sell their current property because they've already bought one and they need to get out fast.
They're committed, yes, on 2 mortgages. They've set themselves up on the one. They've got to get out. Do you think it's possible, by the way, that the real estate agent has promised the person that they're going to get this much for their house? So they bought the other house. And maybe they weren't going to get quite that much. Yes, absolutely.
Now, Rick, this is exciting. This is our first
Illness.
Illness.
In the family?
Yep.
Yep, that's it. Where are we with you?
Death.
Death.
Pretty happy group, this, Death.
My God. Yeah.
We get the total and permanent disability any second.
Mortgage payments should be on a house about 25% of gross earning wages. When they get up to about 40%, which is where they are now in Perth, and Perth keeps going up, and people say, should you buy in Perth? Look out. When you start looking at that wages get up to about 40%, which is where they got up to in Sydney in 2003, and they're up to in Perth now, people simply can't pay any more. And what happens is, we're all there in greed fever, but emotional fever will soon kick in, which is, heck, the dog's looking really skinny, maybe we should feed it. Because what's happened is we're using too much of our gross wages to fuel the property. This is what will stop Perth increasing in value. It's got nothing to do with the resources boom. People simply don't have the ability to pay. Does it make sense? They've gotten up over 40%. So watch this. When these towns start getting over 40%, it will drop back, but that's where they downside. Thank you. Good. The baby boomer generation. The baby boomer generation creates 50% of Australia's GDP, gross domestic product. We are going through as a huge wave. And as we go through now, and over the next 6 years, most of the baby boomers will have gone through that cycle of family creation. We're actually past that now, and families are now reducing in size as the baby boomers, their kids are growing up, and we're starting to get out the empty nesting. Watch it. There's a huge wave of us going through there. We're all starting to downsize. If you look at the properties that are becoming very popular, these boutique properties in the inner cities, which have got very little lawn. That's why Victor lawnmower people are having a hard time selling lawnmowers. Kids have gone, everybody downsizes. So downsizing is important. Do you know what we might also do? We can add to that, not just people's situations, but other situations. Oh, isn't that fantastic? You know, Sydney and Melbourne are having a big sale. Everything's 20% off. Developers getting rid of stock. Yeah, because what happens is you get to the situation where a lot of the developers jump too late into the cycle. You need 2 years in the ratios, right? They're working on a thin margin of maybe 12 or 15% instead of 30%, which is what the first developers were getting. Suddenly the market starts dropping back 10 or 15%. Their profit margin's now wiped out. They just need to unload, especially when they start getting pressure from the person who's carrying their debt. So that's a classic one, just simply oversupply. Oversupply of beautiful one-bedroom apartments down there on the Docklands or in the Sydney around the Haymarket area or along the Brisbane River. Okay.
Location or transfers?
Transfers, job transfer. I had a man a little while ago who was having a job transfer. He was making so much money on the next job. He was happy about just taking $150,000 off the price of his house. He said it was pittance compared to what he was going to make on his job transfer. I know in the United States, when you do job transfer, any equity loss that you make on your house, the company that you're moving to will pick up your lost equity. So Americans will quite often just dump houses knowing that the company will come out and pick up their loss.
Especially in New Zealand, through the increase of property prices, the rates have gone up, especially on coastal properties, and it's too much for especially elderly couples. And in Australia, I suppose the land tax and those sort of things has increased.
Yes. Yes, that's right. You get people who've been in properties for a long, long time, bought those properties for $10 back in the year 10, And so now they're worth an absolute fortune, but the cost basis on the rates, the land tax, they far supersede the pension bill, what it costs. Yeah, just the holding costs. The holding costs just get out of control. You know, you've brought a very interesting one up here.
And then you had all these people going around telling people to buy investment properties who've now gone out of business. You know, people like the...
Right now, a massive amount of equity being stripped out of the market. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of equity, a lot of cash has been lost there, and that has to filter through the economy. And a lot of people can't carry that, and the yields are so low now. A lot of investors moving out of the market because simply they look at the yields. The yields are just too low. They've got to go. One of the reasons why you'll find some suburbs drop so high, and while I'm on this, it's very important when you buy in a suburb, you must have a look at the percentage of investors in that suburb in relationship to homeowners. Now, you can get this from in Australia, from the Australian Department of Housing on the Australian Bureau of Statistics website. It will tell you, I'm sure in New Zealand you'll have put in a Google, government statistics, housing, and you'll have a government website there, and it tells you what percentage of people in a suburb are investors and what percentage of the people in there are homeowners. It comes out on the census report. It's very important. What you find is when an economy goes through a downturn, all the investors don't hold their values very well. They have massive slumps compared to other suburbs which are maybe homeowners. Okay.